Hello, and welcome to another episode of Crazy Books. I'm Crazy, or Chris, but only my homeboys call me Chris. And today I'm going to be doing a review for Carmilla by Sheridan Fanu. I'm just going to see how long I can go with these things. And Carmilla is...
Yeah, you're not going to be able to understand a single word that I'm saying. So, Carmilla, published in 1872. This is considered the first official vampire story book, what have you. It precedes Dracula by 25 years. Dracula was heavily inspired by this, but this seems to be a much less popular version when it comes to, the old classic vampire tale. Dracula seems to be holding that throne down quite well. After reading Dracula, I got really interested in old horror, especially vampire stories. I wanted to dive deeper. What else is out there? Is there anything that came before it? Sure enough, Carmilla is really considered, this is like the first one. This is where it started. It's pretty short and it's pretty fun. So let's get into it. In Carmilla, we follow our main gal, Laura. She's a teenager. She lives on a large estate with her father in Austria. One night, Laura is visited by a strange girl, in a room, standing at the foot of her bed, then transforms into a cat and leaves out the door. And everybody else just writes off this thing that Laura saw as a nightmare, and they move on with their lives. There's also talk in the local town of people dying of a disease and people disappearing. But then one day, a carriage comes barreling by the estate and flips over, and in this crash, they meet this young girl, Carmilla, and her mother begs Laura's father to take her in for the time being, that they don't have time to stop and they need to get on with their journey, and they'll come and get her on their way back. And so her father agrees, and Carmilla starts living with them. Her and Laura become very close friends. Laura will ask Carmilla things about her life or her past, and Carmilla just kind of shucks and jives, but Carmilla wants to know everything about her. They're pretty close in age as well, both like in their teens. Carmilla almost has this kind of romantic attraction to Laura, and Carmilla is also super weird. She sleeps a lot during the day. She doesn't really tend to eat much or at all. She's got a lot of weird things to say and wild questions to ask. And then Laura's health starts to decline. She gets really sick and starts losing a lot of weight, looking very gross. Carmilla also seems to sleepwalk at night. And then one night she just disappears and no one knows where she went. They search the house, they search the estate, they cannot find her. And then all of a sudden, there she is in the adjacent room to her bedroom. And everybody's wondering, how did you get in there? I swear we looked at this. Where'd you go? Whatever. And then we find out more townsfolk are disappearing. And then one day this general shows up, and he's all pissed off and on the hunt for vampires because his daughter was killed by one. And so he's looking for her. And then they go on a search to find the tomb of Carmilla. They find it. They find her. They put a stake through her heart. They cut her head off. They burn her body. That's it. That's Carmilla. And I liked this. I can't say that I loved it, but I did like it, and I think that there's a lot in here to admire. First of all would be the setting and the characters. They're really great for such an old book, and I think that this book does a ton of subversive stuff, given how old that it is. One being that this is basically a female cast. This is the men in this book are pretty worthless, kind of stupid. They just really are not capable of anything in terms of helping or anything like that. The women and the girls, on the other hand, are much smarter and more capable, and even dangerous in the sense of Carmilla being a female vampire. And then also getting into the more romantic elements of Carmilla seeming to be very attracted to Laura. And that just seems so unexpected to me for this time period to have this allusion to Carmilla's sexuality and homosexuality and things like that. The length of this is really great. It's really short, but to its advantage, it doesn't get bogged down with a lot. I think that a lot of older novels and stories like this, they can kind of start to drag. And they have a lot of stuff in them that maybe doesn't need to be there. Flowery language. There's really none of that here. It's very rare that I felt like I was losing interest in anything. I kind of flew through this. And for this being, the first proper vampire story, it does so much that we still know today and that are still very traditionally vampire aspects. Things like scary visitations at night, animal transformations, people getting sick, townsfolk dying off, disappearing, resemblances to old dead figures, mysterious or absent pasts, sleeping during the day, sleepwalking at night, beheading, stake through the heart, burn the body. It even does something that I've never heard of before. At the end, when they find Carmilla sleeping in her tomb, she's in a pool of blood. And I thought that was so cool. I've never heard of that before, and I love it. And yeah, it's just so interesting that, from the get-go, right out the gate, this is our first vampire book, and we're still using a lot of these tropes today. And really, that's kind of all that I can think to say about it. Again, this is such a short book. It's really simple, but it's really effective and, in what it aims to do. And I really enjoyed it. Overall, I'm going to give Carmilla a 3.5 out of 5. I cannot say that I love this book, but I did like it. And I think if you're interested in vampire stories and especially, wanting to know like the history of vampire stories, and you should definitely read this. I highly recommend reading the OG. Like it is good. I just think that maybe it kind of suffers from its age and its writing style. I didn't find it difficult to get through or hard to follow at any point. It just is an old story, and so it has a lot of the cliche elements of an old story that tend to slow it down maybe a little bit, or maybe not get to the point as quickly as it could. What do you think? Have you read Carmilla? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Sound off in the comments below. Recommend me any other great vampire stories that you know. Now that I've kind of gotten this and Dracula out of the way, I'm open to reading pretty much anything that has to do with vampires, new or old. So give me any recommendations that you think I would like. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and as always, thank you for watching, and goodbye.